Thank you for attending our session. It's very late. We appreciate it a lot that you show up here for the very last session today. My name is Stefan Schneider. I'm presenting here with Bernd Schubert. I'm with AWS. Bernd is with SUSE. We jointly work on the SAP HA solutions for AWS. We named our title Discuss. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask them. We prepared a ton of slides because we have been scared that we don't have enough content. We have quite a number of architectural diagrams in the second part. If you have any issues, questions, ask them. We'll be more happy to have an interactive discussion with you guys rather than pulling off our slides. So feel free to ask. We're a relatively small group here. Things are supposed to work out. And now allow me to hand over to Bernd.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. As Stefan already told, we are working together. I'm from SUSE. I'm one of the solution architects in the SAP Linux lab. And we will start with no, we won't like to start. No, it's not working. Where's your No, okay. With the milestones. Since 2008, SAP trusts the AWS infrastructure and has deployed a variety of products and workloads in the AWS cloud. Since 2010, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server became available as an SAP instance. And since there, as you can see, there's the varieties and instances based on SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP Applications are growing dramatically. So, for example, in 2015, a 2 terabyte system for a single host instance was available, and the main purpose for that was to running SAP HANA in the cloud. After this, SAP has certified HANA Scale Out clusters in the AWS cloud. First, it was a 14 terabyte was certified, and then with 2000, later on, we have 4 terabyte systems available as an instance for SAP HANA in the AWS cloud, and that grows up to scale-out clusters with up to 34 terabyte, which was possible for the customers to run HANA in the cloud infrastructure. Another important point was 2018. During the Sapphire, AWS has announced the bare metal instances with 4, 6, 9, and 12 terabyte bare metal instances. So customers could run HANA in the cloud on a bare metal system with this high amount of main memory. Since this year, AWS is able to, and SUSE together, to provide the SLES for SAP application instance in the Indian market. Therefore, we have a lot of system integrators which uses the AWS cloud more and more for customer projects. Yeah. Next. Okay, the relationship between SAP and SUSE is very long and very strong. Since more than 18 years, SUSE works together with SAP, and SAP trusts SUSE so much that they have built their own using SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for their own infrastructure. They have built their own product, SUSE Cloud Platform, based on SUSE Storage Enterprise Server and SUSE OpenStack Cloud. SAP HANA, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server was the first operating system which was certified for SAP HANA. 100% of all SAP Business One appliances based on HANA running on SUSE only. Therefore, we have built a special image which makes the deployment and the installation for the partners and customers very easy and straightforward. Yeah. Is there another one? One point, the SAP, sorry, the SAP, SAP solution architects like me and Stefan is not from SUSE, but we are working closely together in the SAP Linux lab. And this is also a very important point, which helps SAP to trust SUSE. This collaboration between us and the partners in the SAP Linux lab for future products. Okay. AWS and SUSE works together, so we have a very great team which provides the SUSE public cloud update infrastructure. It's a managed service by SUSE and provides patches and the update infrastructure for the AWS pay-as-you-go images. That means SUSE employees take care to provide new images, new instances based on new technologies, which provides from the AWS team, and they are working closely together. And another point is the collaboration in the SAP Linux lab between Stefan and me, for example. We are working closely together to build new best practices. A lot of them are co-branded and available on the SUSE download pages, best practice pages, and also on the AWS documentation page. Another point for that. Yeah.
Well, if you open a ticket against our joint product, it doesn't matter whether you open it first against the SUSE component or against the AWS component. Yeah, we are jointly going to work on it.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess this is also coming on the next one. 2 slides later. So we have also a point for the support model, for the streamlined support model between AWS and SUSE. Here we have a short overview or a small extraction that all our leading SUSE products are available in the AWS infrastructure as an instance. And the SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP Applications are the leading products for business critical mission applications. So the customer can use these both products as an AMI image, as a marketplace image, or as a bring your own subscription image. The benefit of the AMI image is they can use the public cloud update infrastructure, which means that means SUSE takes care that the patches and updates are provided by our team, and the customer can use this as long as they have, as long as they're running the instances and they pay only for that what they are using. So there's a very good flexible this point flexible procurement option. So they pay only for how long they are using the system. And the other point is a single point of contact for the support model. Means it doesn't matter if they open the ticket in the SAP system. So we are working closely together. So in the SAP system, the ticket can be moved very easy from AWS to SUSE guys or to SAP. So we're working closely together in the same ticket system, and we can all working on the same ticket so that the customer don't need to open multiple tickets. And the other point is, in that case, that the AWS support and the SUSE support working hand in hand. So the first and second level support is done by AWS himself, and only the third level support is done by SUSE. And there are also other products available as an AWS instance with the bring your own subscription model. So you see more or less all the leading products from SUSE are available for the as an AWS instance. Yeah. I mentioned it multiple times, or sometimes before, the SUSE Public Cloud Update Infrastructure. It's a managed service by SUSE. And in each AWS region, we have such an update service available. So that means for the customers, they have very high performance to get the patches. That reduce network costs for the customer to get the patches. And the update services are very reliable, so SUSE takes care that the service is available 24/7 and with multiple update servers in each region. And they are working closely together with the AWS EC2 team. So we were the first provider which, for example, Meltdown Spectre, we were the first team which provides the patches for the AWS instances to update the systems for the customer. And this makes the usage for the customer of such a mission-critical infrastructure very reliable and Okay.
Is there any insight about the update frequency? Do you have fixed schedules for this? Or how is it?
As long as the patch is available, the local SMT servers will get the patches, and then it's possible to install them in the customer.
Always deploy latest.
Yes. Or?
Yeah, that's on the, so just before this talk, Robert Schweikert from the public cloud team identified that moving forward, that'll be on a 3-month schedule. So they're making the
new images, new instances. Yeah.
Instances, so that those latest images have the latest updates quarterly.
Yeah. Did you mean this, or did you mean patches in generally? Both.
Well,
okay.
If you create an instance, go with the AMI, the boot image with the latest state, then you're going to get the latest patches are integrated. Then after you started it, do an update, and then you're going to get the patches at the regular intervals.
The only problem with that is that you can't actually add in SUSE Management.
Yeah, so you can. There is a blog post about how to remove
The cloud update.
the what?
The cloud update. Because that's going to, because if you can't remove the cloud update, possibly if you buy from
You can. So there's a blog post that we can share at the end of this, where there's they call it the client config, where you're able to kind of remove it, delete the certificate, delete some directories that point to the SMT update server. And then you can add SUSE Manager. And there's other SUSECON sessions where you're able to manage the pay-as-you-go images through SUSE Manager. But yes, I'll give you my card and I'll send out if anybody wants it. I'll just.
The only reason I'm saying is because we just went to buy a subscription due to that reason.
Yeah, so no, you can use bring your own subscription. You can use SUSE Manager for both bring your own subscription and pay as you go. Because really it's just it's an update repository and it really doesn't matter. You just have to know how to remove the pointers to the
That's clear.
Public cloud
I'm
infrastructure.
just keen to
Yeah.
understand the life cycle
the life cycle.
from the cloud
Yeah.
solution. We run our own SMT anyhow.
Yeah. So,
So what you're saying then, the patches are they taken from SUSE Manager cloud update?
SUSE Manager.
SUSE Manager.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I don't want to
Yeah.
derail.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Well,
But this is what we would like
Well,
to have.
Okay.
Maybe it's interesting for
Okay,
others too.
yeah,
So
well,
You
Yeah.
can. So with what you're doing is you're basically pointing, you're removing the registration certificate and the entry, the host entry is pointing to the SMT server that the public cloud infrastructure is pointing to, and basically you're re-registering by installing
Again.
salt and all of that and pointing it to SUMA. So any of the repos and updates are all pointing to SUMA, but you have to know what directories to remove and what entries. There is some documentation in the SUSE Manager guide, but it's kind of buried, and so it's easier to just send the blog post.
okay. This was useful. Could you say something? about that? If
Yeah,
not, we
well-
go to the next one.
Well, this is a slide which simply summarizes that we have an integrated seamless support. We already discussed it. We work jointly together for quite a period. As we already discussed before, SUSE and AWS will give you relatively decent AMI, which has latest patches installed. We refer to this as a shared responsibility model. We give you a kind of a decent AMI, and then it's up to you to patch your system on your own, because we don't know when you have downtimes with your application. You have to know that as soon as you operate your system, it's your own responsibility to patch it and to patch it appropriately. Yeah. And yes.
This is a streamlined support model. So as you can see, until 2017, the support was done by SUSE. And since there, SUSE has extended the engagement with AWS. So since there, AWS is able or can bring or provide the support in first and second level to the AWS customers by themselves. So for that, they have built and support or extended the support engineering team, which takes care for the customers which are running SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP Application. So all customers which are running this AMI or AMI with this product, they will benefit from this new support infrastructure.
Well, to be blunt, Amazon is an OEM of SUSE. We resell SLES for SAP, and we provide as well first and second level support.
Yeah. That's a major change since end of 2017. Okay.
This was, I think, something I'm supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
If you're going to pick your AMI, you can go to the marketplace, which is a kind of a vanity web page where you can pick your AMIs. You will have to search for SUSE for SAP, and then you're going to see the offerings. These are the AMIs you need to operate SAP, NetWeaver, and HANA. The professional way is to go in the console here to the AMI selection and pick your AMI out of the 100,000 AMIs, and there you can do a search for SUSE SLES for SAP, and you will want to go with the AMI which has the latest state in Crane in its way. This is kind of the more professional way. This is the way on how you do it if you do mass deployments. And these are two different entry points.
So there's the reserved instance. Are you going to talk about the reserved instance later?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I guess we have something about this. Yeah.
Are you going to talk about the annual subscription?
We didn't plan to, but feel free to give us an update.
So reserved instances are great for compute, and they're also for SLES because it's an OEM OS. It's like a start OS. It falls under the EC2 instance, like the reserved instances. So you'll receive a discount on the compute depending on what virtual machine you pick or EC2 instance size you pick, you'll get a discount, and you'll also get a discount on the SLES subscription. Now, SLES for SAP is in the marketplace, and that is purchased through an annual subscription, which is different. So the key is if you want to get a discount on the annual subscription for SLES for SAP, you purchase that, but you still need to get that discount for the reserved instance. And when you do that, you have to select the Linux. If you look at the operating system type, it's a Linux / Unix OS. So you don't select SUSE as the OS because it's a marketplace instance. I know we're going to do a webinar, David and I, on this, where we're describing the purchasing because it is a little confusing and just based off of the options that are there.
Well, what is a reserved instance?
A reserved instance is a way.
Well, normally you pay our instances by the hour, or do we pay them by the minute?
By the second.
By the second. And paying them by the second is like taking a cab. If you know that you need an instance for a year or for 3 years, you can make a commitment to have this instance for a year or 2 years, and then you get a discount of up to 60%, because we know that you're going to use this resource for the next 3 years. This gives us a better planning horizon. You are going to use it, so we are going to pass a discount of 50 to 60, 65% to you. And this is something you typically want to do if you run production SAP systems, or if you have a fleet of, let's say, 12 to 20 systems. Then you typically are, if you know that this is your average, then you typically make a reservation for 10, 12 of them. And the name is reserved because we really make sure that you always get these systems. We have very rare situations that our free pools run out. And if you have a reserved instance, we always have a physical system for you. If you're going to burn it out for what reason ever, you can reboot and you're going to get a new system.
So the AWS monthly calendar where you can put everything in and just get the price from it.
Yeah.
60% discount there if you add those numbers together.
Yeah.
That's correct. So you'll associate, each one of those reserved instances will be associated with a running instance. And there are a couple models here, or 3 models, very specifically for identifying how deep the discount is going to be, and that's based on how much you pay up front. So if you decide to make this commitment, you don't necessarily have to pay all of that money up front, but then the discount is not as deep. If you make a full upfront purchase, full commitment to ensuring that you have that instance, then you get a much deeper discount. And then the big distinction here that we're making is that if you're looking at the reserved instances, when you are asking yourself what you want, the question is, do you want a discount just on the Linux, just on the instance itself, the infrastructure cost, or do you want a reserved instance that combines both the on-demand license or subscription, and the infrastructure cost? So if it is an on-demand instance and you want to make a full upfront purchase for that, for both the subscription and the infrastructure, you choose a SLES, a reserved instance type. And if you're choosing if you're choosing to do a discount or an annual subscription through the marketplace or some other way, then you would choose the standard Linux because you're only taking the infrastructure cost discount at that point. You're choosing to make your discount purchase some other way for your SLES subscription.
Okay.
Okay, that's one for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With last year, we have simplified the support model for SLES 12 and SLES 15. So, but only for the SLES for SAP application product. That means up to last year we had 2 kinds of support model for the subscriptions. So we had the major support, we have the extended support for the operating system, and after this time we have the LTSS, the long-term support subscription. And with for SLES 12 and SLES 15 we have changed this model for the SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP application. So the customers, the customer will now get with a standard subscription for each minor service pack, for each minor version, a full support for over 4.5 years for each minor version, and only for the latest minor release of a code stream we will have the LTSS option. So this makes the support, the subscription purchase a little bit easier for the customer, so they have only one subscription for the whole lifetime over 4.5 years. And if they would like to have a longer support life cycle for an instance or for an environment, they have to go to the latest service pack, so that's still necessary. You have to update your instance to the latest service pack, and after 4.5 years, you have to purchase the LTSS option. And LTSS is only available for SLES 15 and 12 for the latest minor release. Yeah, that's a major change.
But I'm sorry,
yeah.
it is called LTSS.
Only for the latest service pack. In the other things, it's called SPOS, Extended Overlay Support. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next one.
Okay, that's now my section. This is a kind of an inspirational picture. We at Amazon are supposed to make decisions in a kind of two ways. We are supposed to make two-way decisions, like a two-way revolving door. This means you make a decision, you figure out the decision doesn't work out, and then you walk back out to the second door. The other option are one-way decisions. This lady here obviously has to make a one-way decision. As soon as she left the plane, she's gone. There's no way to get back. Our customers typically flock in to our platform because we are a kind of two-way door platform. You can use our platform for an hour or for a day or for a week. You can make your proof of concept. You can check out things. We are not going to bind you. You can delete your entire infrastructure later on, and therefore it's very little risk to go with us. You can do an experiment with HANA, 240 gig for an afternoon. It's going to cost you something like $50. You're going to delete your resources afterwards, and there are no more costs. We have a lot of HA customers. We strongly recommend our customers spend 2 weeks a year in a sandbox environment, create snapshots of your production system, kill your system in any thinkable way, and test your own skills on to recover your system. 2 weeks out of 52 weeks, this is a kind of 5%. Invest this 5% overhead to train your staff, to keep them up to date. You can make two-way door decisions by experiment around, by trying new things. This is why our customers come to our platform. As already stated, we have quite innovation. Let's skip out here. We support pretty much all SAP products. We have other products like Concourse running on our platform. We work with the US government. SAP Hypers is running on us. So we have quite a number of touch points with SAP. This slide here is a bit of embarrassing. We are considered to be kind of the market leader. To keep a long story short, our products simply do what we document in the documentation. We have an embarrassingly small support team in Waldorf. Things work out. Things are extremely homogeneous. There aren't any surprises. If you know on how to run your stuff in US East, you know on how to run it everywhere in the world. So our platform is simply relatively robust and works as designed. We are a self-service platform. We actually don't even know exactly on how many customers we have on SAP. Our customers help themselves. This is something we see as well with SLES HAE. Our customers do their own installations. They do them when they want to. We are a self-service platform. Let me move on. We already lost quite some time. Another thing you have to be aware of, we have a relatively deep portfolio. If your customer is interested in working with IoT, artificial intelligence, DevOps, or enterprise apps, we are the platform to go with. We have, I think, an internal capacity of 140 petabytes per second in between our regions. We have access points in all important regions of the world. So we are the natural platform to gather our data worldwide. We have quite a bunch of consumer products. So we are a relatively rich platform. Going with us definitely is super interesting for customers. Now to our technical part. I didn't want to redesign all my slides because they have been white rectangles on a black background. We have quite an attractive portfolio for SAP solutions with SLES for SAP. And when it comes to HAE, we use a number of AWS technologies, and we use SLES HAE. Since I assume that you are gurus on SUSE, give me a second to give you some ideas about what we can offer to complement your offering, the SUSE offering on AWS. We use these components in here, plus SLES for SAP HAE. And the first thing which is super useful are our availability zones. These are data centers which are 10 to 50 kilometers apart, different flood levels, different electricity, everything independent internet hookup. And we have a high bandwidth in between them. We have our latencies which are good enough for SAP. And we can do HANA synchronous replication. And we can use CoroSync as well. Long story short, SLES HAE is a kind of designed to be an HA solution, which means it's allowing you to fail over from one rack to the other rack. Or in the worst case, you can have a firewall in between. We extended to a kind of a DR concept because we can operate these clusters over a distance of 10 to 50 kilometers, which means if this is just a kind of a tactical nuclear attack, you should be able to survive with your cluster. If it's a kind of a bigger thing someone is going to drop on you, then this is simply a bad hair day, and you probably have different priorities this day. So our customers tend to run these clusters in a kind of independent data centers. We already add DR capabilities by using our different AZs without any extra price. Another thing we have is an NFS service. We call it EFS, Elastic File System. And this EFS file system is synchronizing data across 3 AZs. Whenever you write something, it's going to get copied across 3 AZs, which means you should be relatively safe against the media failure. Things shouldn't get lost anymore. I assume that everyone in here is able to set up an NFS service on SUSE within probably 90 seconds. This is relatively straightforward. Being able to set up a hardened and redundant NFS service is something a bit more difficult. And this is probably going to take you quite some time more. We are going to charge, I think, 30 cents per month per gigabyte. It's a kind of affordable. And we use this to build our SAP architectures. The performance is currently not high enough for NetWeaver database files. We did some benchmarks which started nosediving at 800 benchmark SD users. So use them for file systems like user sub/submnt, user subtrans, but don't use them for the database files. Yep. Another thing we have is our block storage. We call them EBS. These are non-shared volumes. If you want to synchronize the state of your application across AZs, you need some technologies. We use HANA system replication to do this at the SAP level, or we use Enqueue Replication to do this for NetWeaver. These things are internally mirrored. They're available in a given AZ. They don't have a multi-node attached, and they're relatively robust. We document a failure rate of 1 to 2 out of 1,000 per year. our guys work hard on making this failure rate go even down. So these disks are relatively robust, significantly more robust than a normal disk. But if you start operating some 500 or 1,000 of them, one of them is going to break. This is how it is. All our components aren't perfect, and we are trying to build something relatively robust out of these imperfect products. But this is why we have SLES HA, which is going to help us swing over if something is going to go wrong. Last but not least, we have a feature called auto recovery. We are sending ARP packages to our instances, and if the instances isn't going to reply anymore to these ARP packages, we figure out that the instance is dead. We can then restart the instance on new hardware. And this is on how we can bring a system back up again within 3 to 4 minutes. We tend to use this for application servers or for database servers if the HA need is a kind of lower. If you have a normal database, your system is going to be up after 4 to 5 minutes. And then our database service is going to start again with HANA. It takes some time longer. This is why we need SLES HA. But auto recovery is doing a relatively decent job for application servers for NADB solutions. We worked with SUSE on some aspects which are specific to AWS. SUSE knows very well on how to monitor SAP, on how to start and stop SAP, on how to recover it. They just got recertified with NetWeaver. This is all standard we use with SUSE. When it comes to changing your network topology with a floating IP address or a DNS service, then you need a special agent, which we jointly developed. And we have customers now for 4.5 years. Things are relatively robust. And SUSE is using our infrastructure as well to kill our servers. If a server figures out that the other isn't doing well anymore, it's going to shoot it in the head by asking our infrastructure to stop the instance. With these building blocks and SLES HA, we are nowadays able to provide a relatively rich portfolio. We can protect S/4HANA and NetWeaver with our ASCS. We can protect HANA systems. We are now able to protect HANA Scale Out systems. We are certified to run Scale Out systems with 4 times 12 terabyte. So we can protect up to 50 terabyte. Documentation is still in progress. If you guys are interested in implementing it, contact us. We'll help you guys to get started. Documentation is hopefully out within 4, 6, 8 weeks.
I don't know. I didn't get the update up to now.
Well, Martin is at home this week. He's probably documenting.
This is another project where we are working together. So AWS have documented all the things, and we will also document or provide this documentation over the SUSE documentation page. So we will have a co-branded documentation for that.
I'm going to show you a diagram later on. We have a solution for Sybase. I have another slide for it. We're going to refresh our documentation through the year for SLES 15. We are going to migrate in 2019 to diskless SDB. I'm going to talk about it later on. So this is our NetWeaver HA. We have application servers. We tell our customers use an N+1 redundancy for your application servers and do an auto recovery, which means if one of these servers here dies, then you lose some capacity, you restart it, and the show moves on. SUSE is working with the ASCS and the ERS. It's taking care for the replication in between of the Enqueue state. When it comes to the reconfiguration of the network topology, they use a routing table agent, which means they change a routing table, which is normally sending traffic to this instance, and after a takeover, it's going to send traffic to the other instance. SUSE is going to run a Route 53 agent, which is our DNS service. This allows on-premise GUI users to get redirected to the central instance server in question. This works out relatively nicely, and then SUSE is a kind of starting and stopping our agents with the AWS Specific Fencing agent. This is a solution we offer for 2 years. We have quite a number of production customers there. This is relatively robust. Something which is new is the Sybase protection thing. We don't have shared disks. Our customers have been asking for this solution. The solution needs, I think, a maximum a 2-page documentation, which is going to be out there as well in 4 to 8 weeks. The idea here is Sybase has a replication mechanism the same as HANA, and SAP can make the Sybase database redundant on their own. They replicate the state automatically, and this is their own HA solution. Works out nicely with our availability zone concept, and this entire configuration is getting managed by a fault manager. The Sybase Fault Manager is doing pretty much the same job as SLES HAE. It knows which database is the active one. It knows what the replication status is. It reconfigures everything. The pity is the Sybase guys invented this Fault Manager for DR configurations. And it turned out this Fault Manager itself is not redundant. And we have been working with them because we brought this Fault Manager under SAP Start control, and the normal NetWeaver agent from SUSE is a kind of starting and stopping the fault agent. And if this server here dies, it's going to restart the Fault Manager on the other side. The Sybase guys are cooperated with us. They created a floating IP support for it, because till now you haven't been able to install the Fault Manager to virtual host ID. This is now integrated into it, and we can jointly offer the solution. It has been already highly available on its own. The only part, the Fault Manager, is now going to get managed by the SUSE NetWeaver agent, because it's part of the SAP Start framework.
Yeah. And the point is why it's a very short documentation necessary. Only the Fault Manager is bind in the profile for the ACS, and then it's automatically monitored by the HA solution, which is already existing for ACS and ERS. And that's quite easy. So only the documentation, how to install and set up the Sybase application and the Fault Manager integration into the profile for the ACS is all the stuff what we need. Yeah. So there's no change necessary for the resource agent and all this stuff. Yes.
If you would like to implement this solution or contact us, you can start right away. We have a professional service engineer in the US who can set it up straightforward. It's just a documentation issue.
Yeah, the documentation will coming soon.
The other thing which is new and where documentation is in progress is HANA. This is Scale Up. This is the standard HANA solution. SLES is managing system replication. It's coordinating the data flow of these instances. SLES is going to update the routing table to make sure that traffic is always going to be sent to the active instance. And SLES for SAP is going to stop and start the instances as needed. This was our first solution. We have quite a number of customers using this solution in production. So this is something relatively mature. We gained quite some experience. Our customers have been relatively creative in the last 3 years, but we now have a sound documentation and a relatively robust installation. So things stabilized quite a lot in the last 18 months. A new thing where we are going to have documentation hopefully soon as well is Scale Out. We are now certified at AWS to run up to 4 12 terabyte servers in a HANA Scale Out cluster. Customers who run these 50 terabyte configurations typically don't run it just for fun. They run it in a production environment. And if you have a 50 terabyte in-memory database in production, you really want to have this thing up and running. This is why we worked with SUSE on using their scale-out technology to swing over such a 4-way cluster from one AC to the other AC. We already tested it. It already got certified. documentation is the last step we have to do. If you're interested in such a large configuration, go get in touch with us. But be aware, this is a scarily big configuration. But it's going to work out. We're going to use our bare metal systems. Fun part with our bare metal systems is you can stop on a Xen or KVM virtualized instance. If you go with a supported SLES for sub configuration, you can restart them automatically on our bare metal configurations. So we have a relatively transparent growing path. SLES is doing an outstanding job there. SLES has all the drivers on board. It's just shutting down a virtualized instance, and then you can restart it on a bare metal instance. And the SLES HAE works pretty much the same way on the bare metal instances as it works on the virtualized instances. Only downside, if you get a 12 terabyte server from us as bare metal, you have to give us a call upfront. We don't have any higher numbers of spare servers there. If one of these servers here is going to go down, it's going to be down. You won't be able to restart it like on a virtual instance after on, because these servers are super expensive, and we kind of acquire them on as needed for our customers. Last but not least, we are going to migrate all installation manuals over time to a mode where we work with a diskless SBD device.
SBD, yeah.
The point is, we use this diskless SBD device in a third AZ as a quorum creating witness node. And if there is a disagreement in between the two nodes, one of these nodes is going to team up with the witness node. And if the other node lost its majority in the cluster, then this node will kill itself with SUSE means. And this means a kind of instant death. If you're going to shut it down on AWS, it's typically going to take, on these larger instances, 2 to 3 minutes. And this allows us to bring take over times from 5 minutes down to a kind of 2 minutes. This gives you a faster takeover, and it gives you a more reliable takeover because the risk of a race condition where both nodes get down is significantly smaller. So this is going to be a faster and more robust solution in future. This is on how we recommend to operate all clusters. We are going to update our documentation along the year. You can already start doing this today. You will need a professional service guy from us who will be able to convert your configuration. But this is going to make our takeovers faster and more robust. This was a lesson we learned. And all of our regions are going to have a third availability zone. If you are in one of our few remaining regions with 2 availability zones, you will want to go with a traditional 2-way cluster, because having this witness node in one of the first 2 AZs is a kind of pointless. If you lose an entire AZ, you're going to lose your witness node as well. Not a good idea.
And we have used this feature in the HANA Scale Out on the AWS cloud at first. So the documentation for Scale Out will have this feature described.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself in one of these regions where there are only 2 availability zones, make sure that you're working with someone from either the professional services or our support organization to let us know that's what your restriction requirements are there. And it's possible that we can find a way to lift that and increase the number of availability zones that are associated.
Okay. Well, last slide. We provide quite a number of enhancements in the last year. We are covering more SAP servers. We can do faster takeovers. We have an increased reliability. We are able to update multiple routing tables. If you are familiar with our AWS architecture, then you quickly figure out you need multiple routing tables as well. Customers ask for it. We updated the agents. We provided bug fixes for quite some corner cases. And we are permanently working on improving our documentation. You have a very, very high chance to get a cluster up and running on your first trial if you really adhere to our documentation. Most people think they can get it done without reading the documentation. Your chance to get a correct installation up and running is going to increase a lot.
We do accept pull requests.
Pardon me?
We do accept pull requests.
Yes.
We do.
And we have support engineers which are now specialized on SLES HA. This is a great improvement because it took us quite some time to train these support engineers. These support engineers work hand in hand with the SUSE support engineers. This was quite an endeavor, but now we have a relatively robust support. So if you have a production stop, we are hopefully being set up to help you right away. And I think that's it. Oh, one more slide. We have automated installation. The SLES for Sub speaker in the previous session mentioned it. We have Quickstarts from AWS, which provide you with an automated installation of a HANA cluster or NetWeaver cluster. The SUSE guys have Terraform, which give you the same experience. Pick whichever solution you want. You're going to make our support engineers happy because it's going to lead to correctly installed installation, and things are relatively straightforward. It's great for POCs. It helps a lot with the complex stack. So you use these technologies. It'll make life easier for everyone. 3 things we want you to take home. First thing is we're permanently working on improving our stack. Our customers are creative. Our customer asks us for new things. Make sure that you get the latest documents. Go to the SUSE documentation page and check what the latest document is. They keep the older manuals up there, which is not super convenient. Make sure that you have the latest document. If you want to learn about HANA, HANA on AWS with SUSE is kind of the optimal solution. You don't have to buy super expensive servers. Use our servers at AWS for a day or a week. Use SUSE. It's a super platform, and do your tests here. And last but not least, we have quite a number of production customers. We gain quite some experience on make sure that your installations are correct, make sure that your operations work well, and help you in the case that something unexpected is going to happen. This is something where we paid quite some time to it, and we learned our lesson in the last 4 years. This works kind of relatively well. That's it. I think we're done. If you have questions, it's now the time to ask them.
I have one question. So what about managed service providers? Do we have managed service providers that we work with for deployment process?
We work with system integrators and managed service providers on these installations. We had 2-3 trainings with them in the last year. And our SAP is now considering to have a look at it as well, the hack guys.
I sent a blog post to your email. I don't know if you want to put it up.
I would have to get in with VPN.
Okay. But you can show it on your booth.
Yeah.
If someone is interested, we can show it there. Or you send the link to me, and then it's available in our booth too. Okay, perfect.
So any more questions about SUSE on AWS, HAE, or AMIs, regions, update, patches?
So the major point, what we can say is if we SUSE have certified a solution with SAP for HAE, it's more or less also supported in the AWS cloud. You only have to modify the infrastructure, and you have to adapt the resource agents which are for AWS specific in the cluster configuration. The other setup for the cluster to start and stop and monitor the instances, it doesn't matter if it's NetWeaver, S4HANA, or NetWeaver, more or less the same. There are small changes for the coroutine configuration, so you have adapt only this one, but this is already documented for HANA and for NetWeaver. And if we have a new solution provided from the SUSE side, as ENSA 2 is available on SLES 15 and certified on SLES 15, you can adapt this. If you merge an old document, which is already available for the AWS cloud, and the new one from SUSE, you can go straight forward and use the new technology.
How are your customers getting their data into your cloud?
Very good question. Most customers have a kind of a decent hookup, which means customers use their standard internet access, and they create typically a VPN bridge to a virtual private cloud, to VPC. Some customers buy fibers. We have fiber hookups in all major locations. This is going to give you how much? 10 GB or multiples of it. If you have large data needs, then you can go with a solution we call Snowball. You can click a button, and then in 2 days you're going to get a kind of rugged disk device, which you can hook up in your own network for 2 weeks, transfer your data, and then send it back with UPS. And this is 40 terabyte, 60 terabyte.
There are multiples, but so just in general, there are many ways that customers are choosing to do that. And some of those ways are through a direct pipeline or an increase in their bandwidth for a short period of time through something like a direct connect, or choosing to use their own devices and just ship those devices directly to the region where they're planning to do the ingest, and then producing that as an EBS volume or as an S3 object that they can then restore to those additional volumes. But the sky's the limit, right? We can go up to petabytes of data that are pulled out and delivered over through a tractor trailer. Right?
Is that a separate charge? Because in our environments, we're constantly feeding HANA. Feeding it.
We see that very normally, and just remember that once you have the established pipeline there, your ingest charges are typically relatively low, right? Almost nothing if it's a standard pipeline.
So we got the VPN connection in 1 gig, and we just do backup install. Once you see the database, it can take 3 weeks to see maybe 10, 20 terabyte. It doesn't matter because it runs in production on-prem, and then you switch it when you.
So you just go back up, restore.
Yeah. Well, you obviously take the old backup and you just restore it, and then you apply the transaction logs off, and then you do the switch on.
Yeah, so I had exactly that experience with Condé Nast, and I helped Condé Nast move one of their extremely large databases, and essentially we did a mass migration of data through a single device and VM import and the VM import, the import data import, and then we used the transactional backup to replay the final transactions and make the switch over during
decide if you're
exactly.
Coming from set up a replication.
Yeah, you have set up a replication.
Now, what kind of DR capabilities does that offer, or are offered for that kind of, for an instance that's running there?
Well.
Or is it already just assumed DR because you're always going to keep it running?
As already stated, we have in all regions different availability zones, and they are 10 to 50 kilometers apart, and they are typically good enough for synchronous HANA replication. If you have other needs like DR from US West Coast to US East Coast, then you will have to go with asynchronous replication. And we have typical fibers in between all of our regions, private AWS features. You'd have to pay a bit for your outgoing data, correct?
Yes, so when you're transferring from one data center to from one region to another, there is a charge for the egress, not the ingress, but the egress. And the same thing happens with some availability transfer. So transfer between availability zones does have some costs associated with it. It's relatively minimal, but there are plans there that we have a well-architected program that we can help you make good decisions about that, so that you're getting the best economics.
And you may want to check our webpage or aws.amazon.com/SAP, where we show these scenarios. Like if you look for a traditional DR solution where you can give yourself 3 to 4 hours to reinstantiate your service, you can typically back up your data to your local S3, configure your local S3 bucket to do an asynchronous replication to an S3 bucket in another region, and then have some scripts to recreate your instance and download the backup from the region. This is kind of the simplest method with AWS means.
So I'm not going to do much commercial for them now, but we purchased the V option in AWS, so a company called AWS, and we got the Frankfurt side, but we actually store your images, all our snapshots we store through AWS automatically. It's all transparent, we don't do anything. It's just separate schedule, and those are just on the restore actually. Actually, if you want, just do the restore. On the instance, and then it goes to Dublin. But so this is a SAP HANA instance. Bearing in mind that replication is all good, it caters for first line of defense. But if you have corruptions in your database, it doesn't matter if you replicate. Yeah. So replication is all well and good, but if you need to restore it, you need to have some sort of backup first of all. Backup to disk, backup to TSM or whatever you use. So it's also in the cloud as well. Because that will be your second line of defense. But the instance itself, you can just chuck that onto another region quite easily. And I can, if you're interested, it's a great book.
That's the best endorsement, best case, best process I can think of right here. Just a customer review. So yeah, there is a lot of we have a lot of partners there, and Stefan and Bernd had a great slide there that showed some of those partners, including us too, and so we can help you make a decision on how to work with those partners and find the ones that are tailored to your requirements. And then we have other sort of migration services that are associated there, where you can do some migration of images, and along with that data set, smaller data sets. Replication from something that's running in some sort of a virtual machine to ensure that you have a synchronized configuration at the time that you decide to head over.
And as already stated before, you can rehearse these procedures at any point of time. And we strongly recommend it because doing a backup is a kind of human, but a restore is a kind of divine. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for
visit us at our booth. Downstairs, we are somewhere in the middle at a wall. We'll be happy to have discussions with you guys.
Thank you.